So at the moment, it might feel like we're quite far away from this final design, because at the moment we have something that looks like this. Now, we're not actually that far away because we've set up the general brand of the site. What do we do on the last lesson is we made the brand and then we laid it out. So we want to do the same thing in CSS now. We've got the general brand of the site. We're going to work on the layout. Now with CSS, there's two main layouts that we're going to work with on this project. There's one called Flex or Flexbox, which is kind of a flexible layout system, and the other one is a grid layout. Now, if we look at our project right now, there's two types of layout in here. So for instance, my header doesn't really align to a grid. So notice that my about kind of goes in between columns, my portfolio goes between columns, and this doesn't really end at a column as well. Whereas the other things further down the page do have some kind of layout to them. So this is exactly 4 columns, or it should be. So this is the kind of main difference between the two. So our header is going to be a flexible layout, or flex box layout is what it's been called in CSS, and the rest of it is going to be part of a grid. So how do we work with this? So with this, what I'm going to do is go back into my HTML just quickly, because what I want to do is lay out my header in the same way as this is laid out as a header. I want my navigation and my site logo to be pushed apart from each other across the whole of this header. So my header is the thing in here that wants this layout. But if we look at our style.css at the moment, there's nothing in here that says change the header. Now, where would I do any changes to the header? So I could either do this at the bottom, or I can kind of put it in between here or maybe here. It doesn't really matter too much. Now I'm going to put it between my body style and my H1 and nav style. And the reason for that is, well, I kind of want to do this in some kind of rough order. So header, then a H1, then a nav. It's kind of personal preference. Again, don't worry about it too much. We're going to select the header and do something to this header. What do we want to do on this header though? We want to give this header a flexible layout to its things inside of it. So what we're going to do is we're going to change its display type to be what? Flexible. So previously it was site logo, the navigation going down the page. And as soon as we put this flexible layer on top of it, it will go into a line. Now, one thing you might notice is why is this kind of space appeared? So you notice if you select, there is a big gap at the top of this. And the reason for that is technically this is a H1. They're the same height, it's just having some line height in here as well. So the first thing I'm actually going to do is I'm going to get rid of some of this line height. There's two ways to do this. I can actually reduce it in here. So say line height is 1 point something else. So I'm going to do that first of all. What was that in my H1s? So let's quickly go and find them in my, let's select it, and in my heading, this was going to be 1.2 or 120%. So this is at the moment a little bit high. So what I'm going to quickly add in is a line height of 1.2. We can kind of see this reduced down now. There we go, looks a little bit better. But you might notice there is still a bit of a gap at the top of this. How come? Well, again, this is still part of the H2 and there's an image inside of this. I might not want this to be a H1 after all. Maybe what I want to do instead is just remove this completely. So I'm just going to get rid of this H1 completely. We don't need it in anymore. This is just an image and a nav. So now what we'll get is something that looks like this. Notice how this aligns to the top now. There we go. We can kind of see that looks a little bit better. But what is going on with this flex layout? How do I move this over here? Maybe kind of align it in 2 different ways. So there's 2 different ways to align this. There's one across and one up and down the page. So at the moment I want to move it up and down the page. I want this to be roughly in the middle. So if I just quickly draw a line, there we go. It's not quite in the middle, it's a little bit high up. How do I move it down the page? So what we're going to quickly do is go back to our style.css, and with our flex, we're going to change the alignment of this flex. So we're going to add an alignment for the items. And this will give us a few things. It'll give us flex start, which is aligning to the top, the center, the bottom, or even stretch them. I'm just going to do it as center for now. I want them all to be in the middle. It's not a big change, but you notice it's kind of moved things down the page a little bit. Now there is still a gap underneath here, and the reason for that is any of the any of the descenders in letters. So for instance, if there's a J, it might be below. If there's a G, it could be below as well. So for now, we're just going to leave it as is. How do we move this over here? So I want to do the alignment in the other direction across the content itself. So what I can do is add one more style into here, which is called justify content. And this is going across this direction. And here I've got the same kind of things, except I've got some other ones in here, space around and space between. So I want to equalize the space between all items. So I'm going to apply this. Oops. If I pick it and apply, there we go, space dash between. And what this will do now is it will add a gap between all the items. So the items inside here are the image and the nav. It doesn't apply to each individual thing. It only applies to what is directly inside of it, the boxes. The boxes inside here is this, and then all of this together, so the groups. So one thing to kind of think about is how this aligns. There is other things we can do with flexbox or flex. The other one that we can add in here is called flex direction. I'm just going to add it above, flex direction. By default, this is a row. It goes across the page, which looks like this. I can change this alignment to be down the page by using column. So now if I change it, this is now going down the page. I could add some margin on these to kind of move them further down if I wanted to do an alternative. So for instance, if I just want to add an alternative, I can add it here. I could even add it on the navigation as well. So for instance, maybe I'll do it on the nav because it's the whole box. On the navigation, I might want to add some margin, maybe something like 32 on the top, none on the right, none on the left, on the bottom, none on the left. So now we'll have a bit of a gap between the two. So just by adding something very, very quickly, I can add lots of layout in here. What I do want to do, obviously, is not have the alignment in a column. I want it to be aligned in a row. And I can switch some of these things around. This looks right. Again, I'm going to remove that navigation's margin just because it offsets it a little bit now. Perfect. So now we've got our header laid out as it should be. This was only 6 lines of code, and this is very powerful stuff. As soon as we start to add more of this layout techniques in here, the site will come together really, really quickly.